Divine Feminine Conversations. Hello to everybody that's just joined us, that is here to share space with every single one of us. I am so excited. My name is Sodashi, and I am beyond thrilled to be able to be the host for tonight's Divine Feminine Conversations. The Divine Feminine Conversations are just all conversations dedicated to unpacking and exploring the concept of the divine feminine, to bring in so much of the intuitive wisdom and expression that comes with the divine feminine back into our lives. And we are here bringing together like-minded people to have these conversations and to share space with everyone. And it is such an exciting thing to be here. And thank you for everybody who has joined. Thank you for everybody who went through the process of RSVPing to share space with us here, as Soul Perspective and the Divine Feminine Conversations. And from myself, I'd just like to give a big thank you and a welcome. And as more people come into the show, I know we're already 5 to 6 minutes in, but I just want us to take a minute before we get into the thick of things, but to take a second to just ground into this moment and to just feel that we are here, we have arrived, and we are creating the space and just taking a moment to just tap into that divine feminine energy that we all possess and that we all have. So I'm just going to invite everybody that's watching right now and everybody that is about to come in. If you're coming in and you don't know what's going on, I just want to invite you into a space of just taking a second. There's not a moment of silence. This is us just taking a second to ground. I'm just going to take in one big deep breath. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes before we take the breath. Close your eyes. Be in the moment. Be here. We are here. The Divine Feminine Conversations. And I just invite everyone to just take one big and full breath into the nose. Taking one more sip. And out with a loud sigh. And we're going to do that just one more time. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your eyes closed. Just one breath in. And another one out. We are here. The Divine Feminine Conversations. And to everybody who's just trickling in, joining in, hello and welcome. And just to start off with things as we just in this moment, to give gratitude to the divine presence that lives within us, the divine feminine presence that lives in us, and just to bring in divinity into our space and to just say thank you, welcome. And I'm grateful for every single one of you that are here. I'm grateful for this space. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for all the divine energy that I'm feeling around me. I'm grateful for the guest that we have, Mrs. Julia Prazis, for being able to cultivate and share this space with us. And I'm just grateful in general for everything that we have, the plant besides me, the incense that I'm burning, everything that has to do with us being here in this moment, from the car rides that we all took, from the cell phones that we're all watching this from, or whatever device you're watching from. Just thank you, and just the moment of gratitude. And I'm going to give it just a moment, just a little bit of moment of silence, just for a second, just for us to sit in this moment here of gratitude. Hmm. Okay, all right. So we can now get into the thick of things. We only now can get into the midst of it all. Like I said before, if you don't know yet, my name is Sodashi. I go by Sodashi, and I am your host for today's Divine Feminine Conversations. And today's topic is around unpacking, as it is our first webinar, unpacking what the Divine Feminine is. And I'm not alone. I'm not at this alone, no way. I am joined by the amazing Julia Paris. And I just want to give a little note about Miss Julia Paris. She was my very first coach. I met her at a time where I really needed coaching, and she felt that I needed it somehow through divine whatever happenstance. She knew that I needed coaching, and I got to connect to her in such a woo woo way. And it wasn't even for spiritual coaching at first. It was just, in general. And when I finally got to connect with her, I just knew instantly that she was the person that was going to hold my hand as I walked through my path and my spiritual journey. And this is one of those very full circle moments for me. I hope you guys see the radiance oozing out of my skin, because this is such a full circle moment to have the person that my very first coach, my very first spiritual, well, maybe not very first spiritual guide, but definitely a very prominent spiritual guide to me, that has led me through this path and has gotten me to where I am today. Seeing me is seeing a product of many different people, but definitely of Mrs. Julia Paris. And it is just a full circle moment to have her with me as my very first guest here for the Divine Feminine Conversation. So before we get into it, before we get into her and we invite her onto the screen, I just wanted to introduce um, the entity that has allowed us to be here today. Soul Perspective, my bad. Soul Perspective has allowed us to be here today and is the founder of this amazing Divine Feminine Conversations. And just to unpack a little about Soul Perspective, I am part of the Soul Perspective team and part owner of Soul Perspective, and I am also the community manager for Soul Perspective. And Soul Perspective really was a platform that birthed from being able to notice what it is that we need for ourselves in our spiritual journey. And it was really a platform to help in any way to facilitate, and not just to facilitate spiritual growth within, but to also facilitate spiritual growth in our community, and to bring like-minded people together and sharing space to get them going in their own spiritual journeys, and the way that they and how they walk through it. There's so much information out there, there's so much that's going on in the world, and sometimes we just need a place that we can get so many things. And through Soul Perspective as a platform, we can get not just only places to learn through articles and through many other different nuances, but we also get places to learn through here, where we get to talk, where we get to engage, such as this webinar that we're watching right now. And it is really just a place that allows you to have the tools, and there's so much coming for Soul Perspective. So if anybody wants to check out what Soul Perspective is and how it functions, the URL is right there on the screen. But regardless, you can go to www.soulperspective.co.za, or you can just contact us via any of our social media pages at Soul Perspective, on Twitter, on Instagram, and us on Facebook as well. And obviously anybody that joined will be getting a very big thank you that is going to also allow us to connect further than just this webinar. If you're new to the Soul Perspective family, I'm already initiating you. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Soul Perspective family. We are very honored to have you here and to just be part of your journey and your becoming, and your blossoming as well. As Soul Perspectives has been the very same for me. And we'll be walking this journey together. But on to the thick of it right now, the Divine Feminine Conversation for today, with Miss Julia Paris. Miss Julia Paris is a transformational coach who has done so much. And like I said, I'm a vessel of her work as well. I am, someone to show to that, this is Mrs. Julia Paris's work right here. I remember the very first conversation that we had, spiritual conversation that we had. Miss Julia Paris said to me, "Do you know anything about the divine and masculine side?" And I didn't know much then. When I first started with her, or I did know, but it wasn't really as in depth. And she got to introduce me to this topic and how it actually contributes to my life, and how it acts out in the world around me. And it's really awesome to have her. And I know you guys are going to learn so much from her and her presentation. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite her into the space. Hello, Mrs. Paris.
Hello, Totally. So, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hello. I am
Can you hear me,
here.
Totally? So?
Hear you. Hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you
Okay. Awesome.
perfectly.
Awesome. Awesome. So I just want a second. Awesome. That's fantastic. I just want to give you a second right now to kind of introduce yourself and why you're here and what it is that you're doing here, and what is it that you're going to talk about. So the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Totally. So, may I just ask that the sound, you come and go a little bit? Totally. So?
Thank you, actually.
Okay. So, good evening, sisters. My name is Julia Paris, and I'm a transformational coach. Uh, I don't actually, sorry, I don't actually want to introduce myself as a transformational coach. I actually want to introduce myself as the feminine, and my bio starts at the day when I was born because I was born a feminine. And for the very first 5 years of my life, I was paralyzed. I could not walk. And soon after, I walked. 5 years of my life went by without walking. And then at the age of 5, I started walking. And then by the age of 22, I was introduced to women and I started working with women. And then I studied and I became a mom and I became a wife and I became a sister in a sisterhood. And that is what I see as my bio. And the reason why I'm introducing myself like that is because of the conversation that we're going to have tonight about the divine feminine. Most professional women, and all women, in fact, always think that their bios consist of what they've been doing in their careers. In fact, what they've done in their careers is just a little part of who they really are. So when you look at me, I would love for you to see the feminine first, the woman first, and then the professional woman. So thank you very much for having me, Kotliso Sodashi. And thank you very much for the opportunity to kickstart this conversation with your audience. I think it's such a necessary conversation for us to have as women at this time in the history of humanity. A very, very necessary conversation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight and to have this conversation. And the invitation is there for us, not to let me do the talking alone, but the invitation is for us to talk together as women, to us to have this conversation together, for us to ask questions, for us to open our heart spaces to let this information land somewhere in a space where it will touch us, move us, and transform us to have more such conversations. So, Tutliso, can I continue?
You can. I think I am slight network issues. So if I am talking a little bit sluggishly, I really do apologize to everybody that is on with load shedding and everything. But we shall prevail as we always do. But yes, you can actually jump in into the conversation. Mrs. Paris has prepared a very lovely presentation for all of us. And I'm going to give her the floor to take it away and to really delve deep into this topic. Thereafter, I'm going to meet you guys again. I haven't left you, and we're going to have a conversation, a little bit of Q&A. So to everybody that is watching right now, get your books ready, get your cup of and let's get comfortable and ready to set and come out. And please, Mrs. Paris, don't be afraid to comment. There's a space where you can comment with us, speak to us, leave a hi if you can see, leave a comment, anything that you'd like to say, any questions, any topics that you'd like to delve deep into. We are ready for all those things. But without further ado, Mrs. Paris, I'd like to hand it over to you, and I'm really excited to go through
Thank you, Tutliso. Thank you so much. So, welcome, sisters. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this important conversation on the divine feminine. Come on in. Feel welcome. Take off your shoes. Make yourself comfortable. And thank you for making the time to be here tonight. Thank you for putting everything aside to join the circle of sisters on the call tonight. There is an invitation for you to close your eyes for a moment and to see the circle of sisters in this room with us, and then to choose your space. Choose where you want to sit. Do you want to sit in the middle of the circle? Do you want to sit on the periphery? Where do you want to sit? And where you choose to sit is the right space for you. Maybe you want to sit in the circle because of the needs that you bring tonight, because of the feelings, the emotions, because of the curiosity. Maybe you want to sit on the outside of the circle because you're not sure of what this conversation holds for you. Maybe you want to sit on, um, far away from the circle. Anywhere is welcome. With the divine feminine, there is no preference. Everything is welcome. Anything is welcome. All emotions are welcome. All mind processes and thoughts are welcome. Take your seat wherever you feel called to sit. So before we start, make sure you are so comfortable that you can follow the conversation without any disturbance. Make sure you have a glass of water to drink. Maybe you want a cup of coffee or tea. Make sure there's enough circulation in the room that you're sitting. Maybe you want to put a vase of flowers down for you, a candle, some incense. But most importantly, bring an open mind. Most importantly, bring your presence, your deep listening, your sacredness, your feminine design, and your feminine energy. Because this conversation is actually about you and it's about me. It's about us, the feminine energy. And then also bring a notebook and bring a pen because you might want to take a few notes down. So traditionally, the most popular depiction of the divine feminine, in my knowledge, is the picture of the Mother of Jesus, Mother Mary. Everywhere in the world, when you talk about divinity as a woman, divinity in the feminine aspect, you will see a picture of Mother Mary. But over the years now, 2000 years, 2500 years, you will also hear about the desert mothers. You will hear about Mary Magdalene. You will hear about the prophets the prophetesses in the Bible, and all of them are seen as aspects of the divine feminine. But the most popular face that artists over the time um, depicted for us as the divine feminine is Mary, the Virgin Mother of our Lord Jesus. The feminine, according to the literature in our world today, has so many names. Sometimes the feminine is called the Madonna. Sometimes the divine feminine is called Sophia, which also means wisdom. Sometimes she's called the goddess. Sometimes she's called Mother Nature. Sometimes she's called the Divine Mother. What is the invitation that the divine feminine holds for you? Firstly, when we look at the word or the two words that make up divine feminine, what do we see? We see divine and we see feminine, right? So it's divinity embodied in the feminine. Just keep that in mind as we go along. So, what is the invitation of the divine feminine for us? Firstly, the divine feminine there's such a lot going on. We just came out of the pandemic. There is such a busyness. Um, when you look around the world, there are wars going on, there are economic turndowns happening, there's poverty around, there are floods going on, there are volcanoes erupting, there are so many things going on. And the divine feminine has come to the 21st century prominence to call you and I into a new way of being with ourselves. She is calling us to know ourselves more. She's calling us to get to know what is it? What is it that is going on and how is this affecting the feminine energy in the 21st century? And this relates ourselves back to our relationship with God through the awareness and the lens of the divine feminine as the divine spark within you and me. She also calls us to reframe our perspectives on what is going on in the world. She asks us to reframe our perspectives of who we are and what our strengths are. She asks us to reframe how we walk through the world as women. She asks us how to see other women, how to see workplaces, how to see our position in the 21st century world, and what are we called to contribute to this world today. The divine feminine lens also calls us to cultivate an awareness that she had actually been with us throughout the ages. This is not the first time that she makes herself known. This is not the first time that she is calling us. This is not the first time she's calling out to us. This is not the first time she's calling us into action. She had been with us through the ages. And I will show you how that has occurred. The divine feminine also calls us to our story. Your story, my story, her story, and his story. His being the divine masculine. And when you look at the word his story, it's also history, right? But there's history, and then there's the story of the woman, and then there is the collective story. So the divine feminine lens makes us aware of how the feminine has been depicted in the history of humanity, in the history of mankind. So, what exactly is the divine feminine? Well, she is that which emanates from the soul. You have a soul, I have a soul, all human beings have a soul. She is that which emanates from the soul. You could also see the soul as spirit. It's a very subtle presence. The divine feminine cannot be identified in one person or in a nation, right? The divine feminine, um, as you could have um, seen by now, is divinity. It's a God. It's a God trait. So God is everywhere. God is not just in one being or in one animal or in one cloud. God is everywhere at the same time. God is omnipotent, omniscient. God is everywhere all the time at the same time. And God's presence is so subtle that we cannot pinpoint and say, oh, I saw God over there or I saw God over here. And this is the same with the divine feminine. We cannot pinpoint her. She's a subtle presence and she is everywhere. And we really, really have to cultivate an awareness to be able to
But I'm gonna try and get to Mrs. Paris just one more time. Hi there, Mrs. Paris. Can you hear me? Okay, so there is a bit of an issue with your mic. So your mic, I think your mic has there's a sound that's coming from your earphones. I think that I just maybe in your sound. Maybe can you
if I take the headphones out, how does it sound now? Uh, Totliso?
I think
Totliso, can you hear me?
better. Yeah, yeah, the sound is
Okay.
gone.
Is that much better? So let me just go back to what is the divine feminine. The divine feminine is that which emanates from the soul or the spirit. And the divine feminine is a subtle presence. It's a presence over and beyond the physical body. We cannot truly know the divine feminine by just talking about her. She's not an identity. It's not an identity that we can pinpoint. We can't just get to know the divine feminine by sitting down and saying, I'm going to contact her. That's not how we become aware of the divine feminine. The divine feminine is our nature. She is our nature. She's the nature of the human being. She's the beingness of the human being. That is what the divine feminine depicts for us. She is known and she is unknown. She is beauty, she's gratitude, she's joy, she's peace, she's silence. Those are her languages that she speaks. She speaks in sacred gesture. She speaks in prayer. She speaks in poetry. She speaks in archetypes. She speaks through energy. Your energy, my energy, the energy of the world, the collective, the energy of nature spirits. She speaks the language of the cosmos, the moving of the clouds, the falling of the rain. That is how the divine feminine speaks to us. She speaks through color. And then her most important language is the language of love. That is such a beautiful way in which the divine feminine makes herself known to us is when we fall in love with another human being, or we fall in love with an experience, or we fall in love with maybe a picture. You see a picture of a waterfall and you just like it, you love it, right? So this divine feminine, the her main language is the language of love. Some attributes of the divine feminine: spirituality, spirituality, divinity, creation, birth, intuition, divine order, perfection, growth, wisdom, sacred balance, and miracle potency. Those are the attributes that you will find when you hear or you read about the divine feminine, or you hear scholars talking about the divine feminine. Then these are the attributes that can be associated with her. I'm just going to mention them again: spirituality, divinity, creation or birth, intuition, divine order or perfection, growth, wisdom, sacred balance, and the miracle potency. Those are the attributes. Other qualities that can be associated with the divine feminine are qualities of softness, qualities of roundness, qualities of colorfulness, the cyclical qualities. Women are cyclical beings. And when you think of the divine feminine, there's also the cyclical quality that is associated with the divine feminine. When you look at Mother Nature, you see the cycles of the seasons. You see the cycles of the moon, a full moon, half moon, and blue moon. You also find the quality of transformation when you find um, when we speak about the divine feminine. There is this whole quality of caring, sensuousness, beauty, as I said before. There's an intentionality with the divine feminine. Nothing just happens for no reason. Everything associated with the divine feminine happens as a result of intentionality. Then there is this whole aspect of patience, nourishment, and commitment. So how can I access the divine feminine? How can you get to know the divine feminine? How can you um, get in contact with the divine feminine aspect within you? Well, there are several ways we can do this. We can honor our own nature by getting into coherence with our divinity. Get into coherence with the divine aspect that is within you. That invisibility, that something that looks through your eyes when you look in the mirror. That is one way in which you can get in touch with this aspect of the divine feminine. Also, when we sit in silence, when we make time in the morning or in the evening, or maybe during your day, and you make time to just sit in silence, that's also where you will find the divine feminine will make her presence known to you. In sacred dance, I don't know if you have ever if you have ever seen a beautiful sacred dance. um, this kind of sacred dance you get in churches, in different cultures. There are people doing this beautiful sacred dancing, and the beautiful synchronicity with which they're dancing, the slow moves, the serpentine like moves that they do. It's all the divine feminine that's present in those kinds of sacred dancing. Then there's meditation. When you're chanting or just sitting in silent meditation or a guided meditation, the divine feminine creeps in and becomes part of the meditation and takes you on the journey to wherever you need to go during that specific meditation. You can also access the divine feminine through reading sacred literature, like the Bible, for instance, or any other sacred book. There's the Sanskrit books, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita that you can read if you can read it. I'm reading a book called The Knowledge Book at the moment, where I also access and get into contact with the sacred feminine within me and within the book that wants to give me the knowledge that I need as I'm reading this book right now. Sacred feminine also comes through the organic medicines that we take through Mother Nature. She comes through the essential oils and the organic medicines, the herbs that we take, the beautiful vegetables that we eat. She comes through all of those kinds of um, opportunities that we as human beings have to get into contact with God, with the divine, with Mother Nature. When you walk outside with your bare feet on the grass, and you see a flower, you see a rose, you see a tree, you feel called to touch that tree. And you just read the wisdom of the tree through your hands, through your skin. That's also another way of contacting and getting into the presence of the divine feminine. Communion with the divine, when you're praying, when you're sitting down to pray, when you on your knees to pray to God, to give glory to God, to praise God, to sing a beautiful hymn to God. That's also when you contact this beautiful energy of the divine feminine locked up inside of you. When we are in suffering and we have this total surrender to our suffering, that's when she comes and she wipes our tears and she comforts us and she gives us compassion and she gives us a place to rest. All these opportunities is the divine feminine speaking to us in a language that only our heart can hear. It's not a language that's loud and screaming. It's a very soft whisper in your soul, in your spirit, in your divinity that only you can hear when you are quiet, when you are silent, when you are present. Another way of accessing the divine feminine is through trust, trusting life, saying yes to life, saying, yes, here I am. Choose me, send me. Here is my contribution. That's another way that you can allow the divine feminine to speak with you, to communicate with you, to have communion with you, to let your light shine wherever you are, whether you are a mother, whether you are a sister, whether you are an employee, whether you are an entrepreneur. Those are ways and means that you can let the divine feminine come to you, where you can have access to her, when you can presence yourself to her. So, what is it that the divine feminine gives us or brings to us? What? Why is she there? Why is she wanting us to get to know her? Why is she coming into our spaces? Why now? Why this? Why this conversation? Well, the divine feminine is the holy union that we're searching for. Viktor Frankl put it so beautifully, saying that man is in search of meaning, woman is in search of meaning. She comes to us when we awake to the fact that, wow, I'm looking for meaning in my life. Where's the meaning? Why am I here? What's the rationale of my being here? Why do I even exist? Why do I go through this breakup? Why do I go through this pain? Why am I in this state of agony? That's when the divine feminine shows a face to us through this holy union that we're seeking because we have walked away from God, and she is taking us by the hand and bringing us back. She brings us back to this holy union with the holy masculine, which we see as God, and our feminine. That is why she's called the divine feminine. We can also see her nourish us through our breath. The breath is very sacred. The breath is very important. When the breath is gone, we are gone. When we breathe our last breath, that's when the divine feminine takes us on our journey back out of the world and back into spiritual space with God. We're going home when the breath is not there. So she nourishes this breath. And this is why it's so important for us to breathe properly and to be careful what words we utter on this breath that we breathe out every second, every moment of our lives. When I speak, I'm breathing. When you speak, you are breathing. When you are making love, you are breathing. When you're feeding your baby, you are breathing. When you're eating, you are breathing. This is the breath that the divine feminine is nourishing for us. She is there in the breath, making us alive, making us feel alive, making us feel the divinity, that which is the soul or the spirit. The divine feminine is in your intention. Your intention to be here tonight is not just because the divine feminine inspired that intention for you to be here. The divine feminine inspired Protliso and the colleagues to have this conversation. The divine feminine prepared me to talk to you tonight. The divine feminine is in our circle. The divine feminine is present everywhere. Tonight, all the time. And she never goes away from us because she knows that everything we do with intention will bear the fruit that we will harvest later on. The divine feminine nourishes us through our dreams. When you dream in technicolor, it's the divine feminine that is dreaming through you. She's living through your dreams, your daydreams, your night dreams, your big dreams, your small dreams. It's the divine feminine that's nourishing you through your dreams. She is your inspiration. She's your aspiration. When you are in a job and you feel, oh, I've had enough of this job now, I need to look for a new job. She is the one that inspires that. When you feel, oh, it's time for me to fall in love now. I've been a lone walker for a long time and I need a partner. It's the divine feminine that nourishes you to think like that. When you feel, oh, I'm ready for a baby, I need to have a baby. Oh, my clock is ticking, I need to have a baby. It's the divine feminine that nourishes you to have these kinds of feelings. And so she calls you through this inspiration and aspiration. She calls us to pay attention when we pray. A lot of people pray, but it's just lip service. I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, I'm praying every day, I pray every night, I'm praying to God. Oh, I'm going to ask God to give me this, to give me that. Oh, God, please, please, please give me this, give me that. And it's okay to pray like that. But when the divine feminine is part of your prayer, whatever you're asking God manifests just like that. Because she nourishes that prayer. She feels your heart, she feels your intention, she fuels the prayer for you with inspiration and wisdom. And that is why you get what you're praying for so quickly. She gives us a new way of resiliency. In this trying time that we are in, the divine feminine nourishes us to be resilient, to bounce back. A lot of us have gone through a lot of grief, right? We lost people in the pandemic, the lockdown, the economy went down. The divine feminine stepped into this gap and she's there to nourish us. She's there to take us through our grieving. She's there to tell us not to worry. She's in even in the power outages that we are experiencing. I call it the holy dark because in that holy dark, I sit in silence. And then she comes to me and she says, "Don't worry, my child. Don't worry. Don't worry. This too shall pass." That is how the divine feminine comes to us um, to nourish us when we pray. She gives us the resiliency to believe, to have the faith, to know we're not alone. And then the divine feminine also helps us to reframe our perspectives. Tonight, she's with you, helping you to reframe your perspective on life, your outlook. You will never ever be the same again after having been part of this conversation. And you will wonder, why do you say that, Julia? Why do you say that? I say it because I know once she has touched you, you are moved, you are transformed. And the touch is so subtle and gentle that you might not even feel it, but you will know that something has happened. Just like Tutliso said in the introduction, when we talk about the feminine, when we talk about the feminine, we're standing on holy ground. And that holy ground and the holy grail that we've been hearing about is exactly the lens, the traits, the qualities, the attributes of the divinity of the feminine, which is the divine feminine. She's also called the sacred feminine. She helps us rise from the ashes. Think of a moment. It could have been today. It could have been yesterday. It could have been last week. It could have been last year when you were in a very, very deep crisis. And maybe you are now out of the crisis, but who got you out? It was the divine feminine. It was the divinity in you that helped you to see a different perspective, that helped you to stop crying, that sent another human being your way to just talk to you, to give you a word of comfort. That is how she helps us to rise from the ashes when we call Mother, when we call God, please help me, please help me. When you call out for help, then she shows up and she helps us to rise. So why is this the right time to have this conversation? Why now? Why is it the right time to make her acquaintance? Why? You need her. Woman on the call tonight, you and I, we need the divine feminine. It is her time to make her appearance in your life, in my life. It is time for you to get to know her. It is time for you to sit at her feet. It is time for her to give her wisdom to you. We cannot navigate the 21st century without wisdom. Technology is not enough. Technology is important. Technology is not enough. We need the wisdom. We need the wisdom of the feminine. And the divine feminine is well placed to take us through this tumultuous time that we are in at the moment. We need to return to love. We need to return to love. There's a lot of hatred in the world. Putin is still making war. Turkey has just had a huge earthquake. There's a whole lot of destinations in the world that's still at war. Look at the Israeli war. Iran, Pakistan, look at the wars that's happening there. Civil wars are happening. We need to return to love. And the name of the divine feminine is love. Her lens is love. Her energy is love. And not the love that you and I talk about when we say, "Oh, I love you. Oh, you are so loved. Much love. Bye. Much love." No, not that kind of love. The love that I'm talking about is divine love, the deep, deep love of God, the deep, deep, deep unconditionality that that we tolerate each other with, the compassion, the passion, and the sympathies, the empathy that I have for my fellow sister. That's the love I'm talking about. The forgiveness when a man has made me suffer, that I can look him in the eye and forgive him, even though I cannot forget what he has done. But I need to return to love. And this is why she's there. This is why I call on her to be with me, to be present. Also, we need, as feminine, we need to reinvent the world. We have been part of a masculine world for a long, 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 long time. 50,000 years. We have been part of a very masculine world. The masculine built the bridges. The masculine built the factories. The masculine designed our homes. The masculine built the roads. The masculine started gold mines, diamond mines, copper mines, platinum mines, you name it. However, the masculine also got us into the trouble that we are in today. The feminine is rising because we need the softness, we need the love, we need the joyfulness, we need the play, we need the creativity, we need the color, we need the awakening of the woman, of the feminine. That's what our world need right now. And we don't need a Mr. Julia. We don't need a Mr. Totliso. We don't need a Mr. Pendile. We need a Julia, a feminine Julia. We need a feminine Tutliso. We need a feminine Pendile. We need a feminine Sandile. That's who we need. We need the feminine, the real feminine, not the masculine feminine out there who wants to kick ass, do, be busy, run here, run there, have a lot of makeup on, just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. That's not who we need. We need the feminine in all the glory, all the beauty, all the softness, all the joyfulness. We need the awakening. We need her to restore us back to our natural design, to our organic design, which is the feminine, the intuitive being, the being that is almost psychic every moment of our lives, the being that knows today I must not go out. And she tells everybody, I'm not going out. And everybody can't understand, why are you not going out? And she says, I don't know. I just know I must stay at home. That's the divine feminine speaking to you through your intuition, through your psychic ability. We need her. We need to call on her to revive our spirit. The feminine spirit in her organicness is fierce. She's fearless. She's not afraid. She's not afraid to use her voice. She's not afraid to fight when she needs to fight. She's not afraid to stand up for somebody. She's fierce. She's a warrior when she needs to be a warrior. And that is what we need. And that is what the divine feminine offers us. And she offers us reinvention. What do you need to reinvent within yourself today, right now? Maybe you need to reinvent the way you speak. Maybe your language is a very masculine language. Maybe you need to re-language. Maybe you need to change your mindset. Maybe you are in a masculine mindset. Maybe you are in a victim mindset. Maybe you are in a mindset of a child. Maybe you need a reinvention of your wardrobe. Maybe you wear only pants for that matter, and you've never worn a skirt under the vise of, no, I'm not a skirt person. I'm not a skirt person. Just even by the sound of that doesn't sound right to me, because the feminine, she flaunts. She flaunts her curves. She flaunts her breasts. She flaunts that curvaceous body. Doesn't matter what the shape is. That is the feminine. She flaunts her hair. It doesn't matter whether it's short or long, whether it's brown, black, or gray. She flaunts it because it's hers. It doesn't matter whether her nose is flat or her nose is straight. The divine feminine is comfortable and she's welcoming of everything and everyone, no matter race, creed, or color. That's the divine feminine. And this is why it's the right time for us to call on her, because that is what the world needs right now. She's calling us to sovereignty. She's calling us to take up our spaces as princesses, not princess, princess sa with an A. You're a princessa or you're a queen. She's calling you to that sovereignty. She is beckoning you. That's why you are on this conversation. She's saying, come, you're a princessa, but you look like a frog. You look like a pumpkin, maybe. Actually, you're a princessa, you're a queen, and she's beckoning you, she's calling you. That is why you are on this conversation tonight, because we are the direct heirs of the throne of the divine, the sacred feminine, the God, the spirit, the soul inside of us. And the only way that she can get our attention is sometimes even for us to have a crisis or a suffering. So I love to be practical. That's my thing. Um, it is nice to talk theory. It is nice to read theory. It is nice to share theory. However, the practical aspect is for me the most important part of any conversation where the divine feminine is concerned, because the very concept of the divine feminine is very abstract, and so we have to make her so part of us so that we can know she's there, we can feel her, we can presence ourselves to her, and she can presence herself to us. So, breath work, breath love. If you can find a way to learn how to breathe properly, that is where you can make your contact with the divine feminine. When we are in stress or in suffering or in trauma or in crisis, we go into what is called the fight, flight, freeze, flop mode. You either flop out and say, I can't do this, I can't do this, or you freeze and you say, oh, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. Or you fight. You get into battle. You say, I'm not going to let you get the better of me. You think, who do you think you are? That is the mode we take, right? So the divine feminine can help you through breath work. You can make contact with her through breath work. I mentioned silence before. Have a morning ritual. In the morning, have some silence, silent time, quiet time, me time. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, it doesn't have to be a lot. But have that quiet time with the divine feminine. Walking barefoot in nature. How often do you walk barefoot in your own home? That is ways you can make contact with Mother Nature, Mother Earth. Lie down on the grass. Be with her in a very, very organic and natural way, through your bare skin, through your bare feet. With Put your face up to the sun in the morning. Just have communion with the sun. You are in direct contact with the divine feminine when you do that. Meditation. I mentioned meditation. There are beautiful meditations on YouTube. There are guided meditations. You can write out your own meditation. You can record your own script for a meditation, or you can just listen to beautiful, sacred chanting or sacred music, or just a biblical hymn. You can listen to Psalm 23 in the form of music. That's a meditation by itself. You can sit in silence and you can chant the name of Jesus. You can chant the name of a saint, a mystic. You can chant the name, your own name. You can even chant your own name because God has ordained that name for you. That's a meditation. I love to sit in sister circles. I have a whole lot of sister circles that I sit in. I sit in meditation with them. I sit in conversation with them. I sit in just silence with them. So, sister circles is another way of contacting the divine feminine in a practical way. Journaling is beautiful to speak with your divine feminine. When you sit in journal, you can take a prompt like love. What do you want to say about love early morning? What do you want to say about love in the afternoon? What do you want to say about love in the evening? Journal it out. Write a poem about love. Write a poem about the tree. Journal about what did you do well today? What didn't you do well today? That is how you also practically have conversations, deep sacred conversations with the divine feminine. I love to write poetry. I love to read sacred texts. I love to read the Bible. I love to sit just with the statue of Mother Mary. Not that she is in the statue or in that stone, but it is what the stone, the statue represents for me. I sit with beads, I say the rosary, I go out into the sun, I pick a flower, I stare at the flower. Those are all my ways in which I prefer to contact the divine feminine, to have holy communion with her, to have holy communication with her, to speak to God through her, to use her as my mediator or my mediatrix or my intercessor to reach God. Because remember, God for us is, we think we speak to God as if God is a man, an old man with a beard up there who punishes us when we do wrong. God is not that. She is the mediator. She speaks to God. She is the channel that we can utilize and use and communicate through to speak with God. And she comes in so many ways to us. She comes through art, soul art that we can do. She comes in many, many ways. And I just want to tell you a story before I end. When I was little, when I was young, when I was born the seventh child of my mother. So you can imagine when I was born, my mother was already busy with other children. And then when I was about the age of 18 months, where children start to walk, my mother noticed that I didn't walk. I didn't even make an effort to get up and walk. And then my parents discovered that I was paralyzed. And they obviously rushed. I was born in Cape Town, and at that time, um, the Red Cross Children's Memorial Hospital was deemed as the best in the country for children. They rushed me there. All the doctors that went over my body checked me out. They could not find one reason why I was paralyzed. I was paralyzed. I just lay there in the cot, didn't do anything. When they put me on the floor, I just moved this way, that way, didn't go anywhere. Eventually, my sisters would just ignore me. They would leave me there on the floor. They would leave me alone in my cot, and I would just be by myself. And this lasted 5 full years. 5 full years. Who do you think kept me company? Today, I would like to think that the divine feminine mothered me, breastfed me, fed me, kept Holy Communion with me, because the very feet that could not let me walk when I was a toddler is standing tall for women today. Since the age of 22, she called me to support women. Since the age of 22, I took a stand on my feet for the woman who cannot stand on her feet. And I stand for her until she can stand for herself. And that, my dear sisters, is the love of the divine feminine. God, in the form of my mother, washed my feet every night religiously without fail after she attended to the other children, after she cooked, after she put all of them to bed. She would take my lame feet and wash my feet and pray on my feet. And on my 5th year, I just stood up and I walked. I just stood up and I walked. My legs were strong, my feet were strong. I didn't need to go to the hospital. My dad, when he saw me standing at the gate waiting for him, my dad was shocked. He burst out crying with tears. He could not believe his eyes, his ears. I was calling to him. I was standing there waiting for him. And I believe it was God in the form of my mother. God, the divinity in my mom, her divine feminine, the divine feminine in me that connected with the divine feminine in my mom and in my sisters, that gave me the support, that gave me the strength, that gave me the love to one day just decide, oh, this lying down is enough now. I'm going to get up. And then in 1999, I discovered that I have cancer. I had cancer of the ovaries, and I had to have my right ovary removed and my right um, and my uterus. And in the hospital, something profound happened. As I was trolleyed back to the general ward, I was in such pain as the anesthesia was leaving my body. And the nursing sister, she put some tablets on the headrest for me. And I heard myself saying over and over again, if there's an angel out there, please help me. If there's an angel out there, please help me. If angels do exist, please help me. I just heard myself saying this. I said, I don't want to take tablets. I don't want to go to radium treatment. I don't want to have all of that stuff. I don't want to be sick. I have two small girls waiting for me, 11 and 12. If there's an angel out there, please help me. Please help me. And then I just felt this swoop over my cheek very softly. And it was morning. The divine feminine showed up in that moment when I was calling for her, calling for God, calling for an angel. The divine feminine came and supported me. And the cancer left me. Whatever was left of the cancer, it just left me. And it is 22 years later, ladies, And here I am, and I am here to tell the story. And I can sit here and tell you the whole night all the miracles that happened after that um, beautiful encounter with what I call the encounter with the divine feminine. Other people might call it encounter with an angel. But for me, it was once again God, God coming uh, into my space with a softness to help me, to show me, to comfort me, to show me empathy, to give compassion, and to heal me, to heal me. So, my invitation for you tonight, ladies, is to try and listen to this presentation again and again and again. And if you want to have a follow up conversation, or if you have a question, or if you have a yearning, or if you feel a calling, or if you feel a nudge, have conversations about this with your sisters, with Clotliso and her sisters. Call me again if you want to, call other women, call the sister circle together often and frequently and regularly and every week and every day. Call somebody, talk about this. It is our time. It's the time of the divine feminine. It's her time to rise, to rise, to feed the children, to nurture, to nourish, to return to love, to return you to love, to return me to love, to return our nation to love. There's too much pain in our nation. There's too much darkness at the moment. And so, my invitation for you is to say yes. And it's just an invitation. There's no pressure, there's no obligation. There's just an invitation for you to be curious and to find out more. So thank you so much for your listening, and thank you so much for your presence, and thank you so much for your energy. Because again, tonight it's not Julia talking to you. It is the calling, the nudging, the beckoning of your divinity that has brought us together. Thank you very much, Lisa. I'm so grateful and feel so honored to have been here tonight. And if there's any questions, I would gladly answer it.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Paris. I find myself in such a moment of just complete center and just grounded. I'm just here and I'm present in this moment, and just this wave of appreciation and gratitude just came over me. Your story is so powerful, and I've heard it many times before, but I never get to bring it. It is so powerful, and it is into the amazingness of divinity in and of itself, and the amazingness of the divine feminine. And I to anybody that they are heeding to the call, um, to be here. And I think by them being here already, they have heeded to the call. They have come at the feet of the feminine that is being channeled through all of us in this moment. And it is just so amazing. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you so much, Said. So much gratitude. So thank you so much for that, Mrs. Paris.
You're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
for that amazing presentation. I just also
So
want to take a moment to bring it, to let it come in. Thank you for providing information for anybody that wants to reach out. I've also had the privilege of being able to be part of your circles, and it is powerful. It is really, really powerful, and circle in general is powerful. It is
mm,
where the divine feminine dwells the most, is most present, most open, most prominent. And I really do appreciate you coming here and giving that powerful. It was so presentation. It was so in depth and so informative and so educational, and it let us know so much that maybe not a lot of us will actually think about when it comes to what the divine feminine is. So I have some talking points, but if anybody does have, just in the last part of our uh, show, our webinar today, I'd like to just also thank everybody who is present here right now. Send a hi if you are here. Send a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're present. And I'm going to have a little quick conversation with Mrs. Paris, but please do allow yourself to speak your mind, questions that you have, just even if it's a comment, just let us know. Put it in the chat to hear, to know what you think you're saying, and what is the divine mother saying through you right now? What does the divine mother want to say to you? The divine mother wants to say quite a lot to me. Right, but yes, I do invite you to leave comments. But before we end off though, I just want to speak about a few of the things. I wrote down so many notes in my little journal. I have my journal here as well, if anybody sees. I'm also writing down, and I want to speak. There was a guy had mentioned just now about how sisterhood, or about being in the circle, was such a amazing moment for me. I got the chance to be able to share my voice, share my singing voice in one of your circles, which was such a powerful moment. To be present in that amongst a very phenomenal woman. And I wanted to almost delve a little deeper into circle, and how that is literally the divine mother's playground. That is, in this very almost masculine world, it might look like it all for me. It's just about me. It's about my life. It's about, I look at myself only. But inviting the divine feminine is also inviting circle, communion, together, like what we have today. So I'd like to give it to you to maybe expand a little bit more about circle in general, about communion in general. Yes.
So thank you for that very important question, Tlotli. So circle, I got to know circle at a very young age. Um, I was part of a youth group when I was a teenager, and always we used to sit in circle, and I never understood that. But every time we had a workshop, they made us sit in a circle. They never made us sit like the theater kind of seating. And these workshops were always with nuns. And we never understood why we had to sit like that in a circle. And so through my teenage years, I sat in that kind of circle every time I was in a workshop. And we used to be a mixed gender, we used to be boys and girls. And then when when I had the cancer, it was at the moment, it was at the cusp of a big transformation in my life. I was 39 when I had the cancer, and 2 weeks later, I turned 40. And that was when I had the operation. And soon after the operation, a lady that I just saw in a restaurant chair, it was a Chinese lady who had a restaurant. We had just moved to Johannesburg. She invited me into a circle. And I was like, what is a circle? And I attended the circle, and I discovered it was a place where women gathered to just sit. We just sat. And I asked, so what are we doing? They said, you'll see. And it was interesting that some women started to channel, other women started to pray, other women started to see images. And then I discovered that circle was a place where women come together for a sacred reason. And every time I went to that circle and every time I left the circle, I felt stronger. It was like The feminine, after she had been with me in hospital, now put me in a circle. And then when I made the connection back, I was like, wow, the nuns knew something that we didn't know when we were young. Because remember, the nuns are praying all the time. They are in this mystical environment, in communion with the divine all the time. And they were putting us in the circle, and I didn't know what was happening with the circle when I was a teenager. It was only when I started joining the sister circles in Johannesburg that I began to understand how powerful the circle is. And remember, a circle has no beginning and a circle has no end. So when there's prayer in the circle, everybody benefits. When there's wisdom arising in the circle, everybody benefits. When there are psychic intuition and nudges coming, everybody benefits. And it is since 1999 that I joined the circle, and I'm still in the circle and facilitating circles now. And I cannot tell you how much I have learned.
So amazing.
I cannot tell me all the
Mm, mm,
wisdom I hold today. I have learned through my sister circles. And sister circles doesn't have to be older women. They can be young girls.
mm,
They can be
mhm,
teenage girls. They can be young adults. They can be 40-year-olds. There's no age restriction for circles.
mhm.
Does that answer your question,
At all.
Totiso?
At all. Thank you so much. It does. It does. It does. And in community is in really in the small things, artist, and it doesn't always have to be just held in small. It really can just be held between a group of your friends. You and a plant. Communion is
Yes,
the plant. Connecting,
yes,
and that's what it's all about. Your
yes.
crystals, everything, all the
Your
tools that you
crystals.
use, and yes,
Absolutely. You could go and sit on the ground,
exactly, and
a circle around you. Then you encircle because you're never alone.
exactly,
God is
and you
always
invite.
present. Angels, the holy angels are always present. The nature, um,
Mhm,
they're always there. Nature's always there. Mother Nature, she's always there. She might be invisible to the
yes,
eye when she sends somebody or something, but we're
mhm,
never alone. Your
mm,
ancestors are there in the circle with you.
ever.
So it is
Mm,
so powerful,
mm,
so, so powerful.
mm, mm, mm. It is. It really is. And something else that you shared that really hit really about the fierceness of the divine feminine, but beyond the fierceness, there was something that you said around escom and how you call it the holy darkness, the load shedding that we're going through, how you called it the holy darkness. And that is so amazing, because when I think of the feminine, I always think of depth. And what better way to get into self than to be in darkness? That is really where depth lies. There's no end to darkness. There is no
Yes,
end to being. It's infinite. That is where you will find that in the bosom of depth. And you also spoke about how rising from the ashes. And one of the biggest reasons why you rise from the ashes is because you right to her, right? And she's like, carry you and hold you and bring you back up. And it's really, 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 when I heard you say that, it just clicked in my head. I was like, yes, darkness, the depth of it all, the depth of being in the feminine. Is there anything
yes,
else that you'd like to expand on in terms of that depth?
absolutely, totally. So you are so spot on. Thank you for that. That is such an important question that you're asking me. Just look at the baby. Where does the baby get shaped in? created and grown, it's in the darkness, isn't it? The holy darkness. God goes right into her womb. In that holy darkness, He shapes and forms and molds and grows that baby, right? In that holy darkness, where do you dream? You don't dream in the light. You don't go sleep. And now sometimes we do have a dream in the night, but where do your dreams occur? It's in the dark night, when you sleep, when you in the theta brainwave state, um, that in the delta theta, that your dreams come, right? Where does where Just look at, for instance, when you have an idea, where does it come from? It comes as a light bulb, but it comes from the depths of your beingness, which is dark, right? People talk about the dark night of the soul. So we have a dark night of the soul, and then we have the healing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So darkness is not
Yes.
necessarily a bad
Right.
thing. South Africa is being birthed
Mm.
and midwifed.
Mm.
That holy
Mm.
dark, all the things that came to light in this holy dark. Look at all the things that came to light. This is why I call it the holy dark. I think I think we need a reframing of how we look at what is happening in our country. Our country is being purged. Our country is being
Mm.
purged. And what better way than to
Mm.
go into the
Mm.
dark depths in order to rise like the phoenix? How better to do that? And who's going to bring us out of there? Who's going to bring us out? It's the divinity. It's the divinity that's going to make us rise again. And so when I look at the load shedding, when I look at the pandemic, even the sending in of humanity, God sent us indoors.
Mm.
Go inside. God
Mm.
said, go inside. We were locked.
Inside.
There was nobody on the street,
Mm.
right? It
Mm.
is the rise
Mm.
of divinity, the rise of the divine feminine, the rise of going within to go without.
Mm.
It is going into the dark to come into the light. Prayer is not enough anymore, totally so. Just lip
Mm.
service and pray with the lips and singing of hymns and happy clappy is not enough anymore.
Mm.
It's not enough anymore. We need we need to come to this wisdom and understand why and ask questions. Why is this happening? Why am I sitting in the dark for 4 hours? This is no
Mm.
coincidence. This is no coincidence. South Africa has always been a blessed country, always at the forefront of
Always.
everything. We've been
Mm.
through the dark before. 48 years of apartheid. We've been through the dark before. And we came out triumphant. It is time. And this is why there is this holy dark.
It's time.
It is time.
Mm. It is time. It is time. It really, really is time. It is now. And it is now, right? And that's why we have these conversations. That's why we started from the cup and we're building, you know, and
Did
we
you
getting
notice something,
ourselves there
people?
and we seeing happening.
Mm.
Mm.
And did you
Mm.
notice those participating in the conversations are
Mm.
getting younger and younger? Wisdom is not waiting for people to get 60 years old and 70 years old and in the purple tent anymore. Wisdom,
Yep.
Sophia is dancing among the
Yeah.
younger women now. Sophia is spreading her wings. She's dancing. The
Yeah.
the conversation is starting with younger and
Mm.
younger and younger people. And how beautiful is that?
It's that. Mm. 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 Wow. Wow. Yeah. Wisdom isn't waiting anymore, you know. It isn't. It isn't. And I think it is so crucial in this moment to be able to navigate, yeah, to be able to navigate this life that we are living, you know, to be able to actually step and build better. You know, there isn't any more time to waste. We have to keep building and keep creating and keep, you know, keep this going on, keep this going on for all of us. And you know, I think one of the biggest things, and maybe this will be my last comment here before we close off the session, um, I think the fearlessness that it takes, I think I've noticed that even when it comes to the power outages and being in the dark, being in the dark takes fearlessness. And you spoke about how fearless the divine feminine is, and it really takes that. And sometimes people see fearless as like brutal or aggressive, and it has nothing to do with combat. It has everything to do with, no matter the circumstance, no matter the place, no matter the whatever the situation is, I'm standing in this position and I'm acting and I'm doing as I am intuitively told to do, you know, to step into that no matter what, I am not moving, that thick grounding. You know, you spoke about stepping outside and walking outside. That's called grounding. It's about grounding your feet. And being in the feminine is about having your feet right on the floor, right on the ground, and not being moved, you know, stepping right into the thick of things, you know, and not being moved. And that is, I think, a lesson that a lot of us need to take, myself included, you know, to be able to allow ourselves to be embodied in this moment, to be fearlessly embodied into this moment, and be present, to be here, and to step right into the thick of things, and go through the 4 hours of darkness, you know, take a nap, slow down. And I think it's slowing us down more than anything. It's forcing us.
Yes.
It's saying, stop it. You're rushing too much. There's too much to do. Well, now you've got 4 hours out to do nothing.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yes.
self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care. The
Yes.
feminine forces us to
Yes.
self, because you mean
Yeah.
nothing to anybody when you are tired.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't be
Self-care.
yourself. You can't be at your fullest. Mm.
You,
Mm. Ah,
in your cup,
guys, this
you
has been,
mean absolutely nothing to
yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about filling self first, really. It really is.
Yes.
And yeah, acknowledging that shit. But yeah, all about self-love. Yeah. Yeah. I think we are experiencing a little bit of a lag over there, but that's okay. I think right now this is the perfect time. I feel it in my body that it's time for us to bring this conversation to a close. And to just acknowledge, you know, and not take this information and go chuck it away, but to internalize it, to take it and to bring it into self and to be present with it. So I just want to take, you know, invite everybody right now that's been watching, that's been present here in the moment, to just be here and close your eyes, you know, as we just do a little closing exercise to be able to just bring back our energy and bring ourselves back, and just close your eyes and just, you know, step into the body, you know, and see where this information landed. Observe where it landed in your body. Observe where it hit the right spots. And I just want to give gratitude to you, to Mrs. Julia Paris, in this moment as we, you know, step into self, to step into great gratitude, to say thank you, Mrs. Julia Paris, for such
Mm,
an amazing and informative session. Um, Thank you
mm,
for all that came together to be able to have us in this space, have us in this circle, have us share this time. And thank you to the Divine Mother for your presence here in the now. Thank you for feeling so thick and strong, in the air around us. And for us to just close, I'd just like to invite everyone to take one big, loud breath in And one big sigh out.
So if I may just
When you're ready,
add,
you can open your eyes.
if
Yes,
I may just
please.
add, Lisa, is to visualize this big, huge, feminine, divine feminine standing behind you, behind us, and she's got her arms around us, and she's inviting us to just
Mm,
lean back on her beautiful
mm,
breasts, her full breasts, her full voluptuous body filled with love for us. She's beckoning us to just rest back. Just feel the mother's arms around you
mm,
as you rest your weary body in her, and you just say, Mother, hold me. Just hold me. And you
mm,
see her wrapping her arms around you and your children and your family and your home and the darkness, the stuff that's happening in our country, in our world. And she's just there. She's huge and she's beautiful and she's strong and she's light and she is abundance and gratitude and love. And you feel her softness. You feel you feel everything that is wonderful and abundant and joyful and peaceful as you just rest there. And every time you go through something hard and something difficult, just visualize her behind you and then rest. Rest in her arms. Rest and return to love. That's the invitation from God through the divine feminine
mm.
to all of our sisters in the circle. Thank you, Totliso. Thank you, sisters. Blessings
Thank you
and
so much.
much love to all of
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else that's watching, is the end. Thank you so much for everybody who joined. If you have any feedback to give, you know where to shout out to us, guys. I hope that you guys have a lovely evening further. Take the divine feminine with you and join us next time in our next webinar where we'll be going even deeper into who the divine feminine is. I'm so excited to have you ongoing and on this journey with us. To Mrs. Julia Paris and to you and to the Divine Mother. Signing out, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.